Hey, it's Julie Kalen, your voice of happiness. And I'm so happy to be back on camera again. I am so happy to be alive. It has been a really rough 6 months for me, as a lot of you know. And the great news is I am feeling a million times better than when I last appeared on camera. And stay tuned to hear all about my health adventures and what's been going on with me for the last 6 months. Because there's good news in there, some crazy news. Knowing me, there's been a lot of adventures there, right? Good and bad. And I'm here to share all with you. And thank you so much for all of your love and support over these last 6 months, which have been extremely challenging for me. But hopefully the worst is over and hopefully it's all great from here. So, yeah, stay tuned for that. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, please do for more happy content, fun videos, content on everything from animals to music to voiceovers, etc., etc. And I'm also happy to take requests as well. So, yes, thank you so much for subscribing. Okay, but let's start with the good news first. So the good news is over the last, this last surgery that I just had at the end of March, I had 5 more tumors removed and no cancer. So that is excellent news, great news. So, over the last, 5 years or so, I've had 18 tumors removed in total and no cancer. So that is such wonderful news. I'm very grateful and blessed. So that's really important. And like I said, that's great news and wonderful news that I am feeling so much better than before, right? But to give you some background, what was going on like a year ago, or my tumors that I've had, like with these 18 and everything, they could be very bloody tumors. So one of the worst effects that it could have on me is like a lot of blood loss, right? And so sometimes my blood and my iron levels are like up and down, right? It's so hard to predict the bleeding and can be very unpredictable and really tough to manage my iron, right, and my blood levels. So like a year ago though, I was doing like really great. So last summer, so summer of 2024, I was doing so good. And I actually, like the last iron blood test I had, like my ferritin levels, which are my long-term iron store levels, were actually like high. I guess maybe the normal for a woman, I think, is maybe like 100 to maybe 200 or 300 for your ferritin level. My ferritin level was at like 450. And it was like, so the doctors are like, you could stop taking some iron pills for now. Cause I had some before all of those. And it was actually like 2 years before that blood test I had IV iron. And, if my ferritin was at 450, like 2 years after IV iron, I was probably like running, like my body had, pretty high iron levels. But for me, it like there were no negative symptoms, and if anything, my body like loved that high iron level. I had so much energy. Like I felt great for like those 2 years. I was like a bolt of energy and lightning bolt, could accomplish and do so much. Yeah, it was great. I loved it. Like my body loved it. But in the last 6 months or so, and it might even start a little longer than I started bleeding a lot again, like really heavy and like really consistently. And there was like, sometimes with bloody tumors, that I've had for years, sometimes I just wait it out and I'm like, oh, any day it'll be stopping now. Right. But, this time it was like, yeah, it wasn't stopping. And it was just like, sometimes I'm like, I'll just wait a little bit before I see a doctor and get checked out about this. But pretty much, then there's the wait to get doctor's appointments. So pretty much by the time like I was thinking, yeah, I'm really getting low on blood now. I'm even though my iron was high a year ago or a few months ago, this is a lot of blood loss, and I started to not feel well too. And by the time all that was happening, there was like a long wait to get into doctors, right? So by that time, I was kind of like a little bit in trouble there and not feeling well at all. And so then I passed out, right? And that was my first time ever passing out. And I've had, with 18 tumors and a lot of blood loss, like I've had a lot of blood loss over my life, and I'd never passed out before too. So that was a first for that. And I felt like really bad before I passed out, like really like, but of course I've never passed out before. So I didn't know like, what the warning signs were, but like my head felt like this really strange, and I felt ringing in my ears. That was like a warning sign symptom for me too. And I had this really strange like nausea feeling that I've never experienced in my life too. It was a very weird kind of nausea, and like my head just did not feel well. And I've never experienced like the head feeling like that too. And like the ringing in the ears was really bad. And I guess I, even before I passed out, like I lost consciousness because I don't even remember like, how I got from the bathroom to the hallway in the middle of the night. And I'd been bleeding like really bad the night before even. I was thinking about going to the ER then, but I waited it out and I said, oh, I'm gonna wait it out, see how I feel. But then, yeah, I passed out, and in the hallway, and like in my family's house, it's like, we have a lot of boxes, a lot of stuff to go through, right? It's not a great house to fall in. And it was like, I was very blessed. I felt like there were angels totally watching over me, because the place I passed out in the house was like the best, like one of the best possible places that I could have, in the house, where I like didn't hurt myself, didn't break anything, at least, no broken bones. It could have been a lot worse, because my family said it was like a huge thud, right? And I even kind of like, I was unconscious, but I kind of like, maybe my first memory of like regaining consciousness too was like, I heard this huge, humongous thud. And then I wake up on the floor and just realize, oh, that huge, humongous thud was me hitting the floor. And yeah, so just after that, went to the ER and got checked out. And it was interesting that my hemoglobin wasn't even horribly low in the ER. But just knowing my body that it was very much used to that high iron level for probably years. I just kind of think that I was like, my body was like having a hard time adjusting like from the blood loss, and like going from like this really high, like I'm supercharged with iron, to like all the blood tests showed at that time I was like on a kind of borderline low, even my hematologist, my old hematologist, who I loved, actually retired. And so I had this my old hematologist would give me like IV iron. He's like, are you feeling a little fatigued? I'm like, yes. And he's like, okay, more IV iron for you. He was very liberal about giving it out. But this new hematologist I had, he was a lot more conservative about it. And he's like, oh, your iron tests aren't horrible right now. They're borderline low, but let's hold off on the IV iron. Which I wasn't too pleased with, right? After my symptoms and like feeling, besides the passing out, like I had horrible like brain fog and like dizziness, and like just could not like function, horrible fatigue. Like I could only do is like a third of the amount of work that I'm used to, if that. And I spent like a lot of days in bed and just wondering. There were times when I seriously felt so ill that I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get through this alive. Like I felt like my body was having a horrible time adjusting, or I was wondering if the doctors were missing something. I'm like, is there anything else like with all this bleeding besides iron that I could be low on, right? I saw my general physician, and she's like, she just thinks it's probably the blood loss and loss of iron that's making me feel so horrible. But too, she did say, with me hitting, I did find out later, even though when I woke up after falling on the floor, like my head didn't hurt then. Like it felt fine. Like I actually felt a bit better. My head and the nausea had kind of resolved. I actually felt a little better after I passed out and got up. I was like, no, I feel not horrible, right? But my doctor thought maybe I had a concussion too. And so maybe a lot of the symptoms were like a combination of low iron and concussion symptoms. Cause yeah, after that fall for like 2 months, I did not feel well at all. I felt, and some days too, I would drink like this crazy amount of water. Like seriously, if I would have measured the amount of water that I like had drank, it would have scared me. Literally, I never knew someone could drink that much like water and survive. It was so excessive. And I don't know if it was sometimes with anemia, you could get really thirsty too, or like I saw, after like hitting your head, that and getting a concussion, that maybe your body has trouble regulating fluids, right, and hormones and all these kind of things that could happen. But I was not well for a while, and really pretty sick, and like wondering if being like, oh, I've had a great life, right, kind of being like, it would be nice to live longer, but oh, I've had a great life, just in case, because I don't know. I didn't know if the doctors were going to figure it out in time, or if my body was going to adjust. Because like I said, maybe just, going from like a really high long-term iron stores level to just like a borderline low, like in maybe a short amount of time too. My body had a really tough time with it. And I did, like, even though my head didn't hurt like after the fall, like immediately, like I didn't feel like a huge bump on the head or didn't get like a headache or anything like that. I did notice a few days after, I did have like a big, not a big bump, but I did have a little sore spot on my head in a little bit. So I know I did hit my head, right? And it was that big thud. So maybe a combination of a bunch of stuff too. And, maybe with the low iron, maybe like my blood pressure dropping and maybe a concussion thrown in there, right? Which made me feel horrible. And finally, like, with this new hematologist, like I totally, like I said, I love that old one I had that retired. He was very much more on symptoms, and he's like, oh, if you're tired, we'll give you some and really fatigued, we'll give you some iron. Like this new one, like I said, was very much, oh, your blood tests don't show that you're too low, right? To get some IV iron in you. But eventually I was very proactive about like emailing him, and I'm like, hey, look, I feel like I'm gonna die here. I feel horrible. I feel like, I'm gonna get fired from work because I could not, like, barely sit in bed and like read and like function, and like the brain fog was horrible. I wouldn't say it was like confusion for me, but I was like not mentally where I'm at all too, to like teach college courses. I was like I could barely sit in bed and read. I'm like, maybe could I have a little bit of iron or something too? And he gave me like a small dose at least, but it's like, thankfully I at least got some IV iron in me finally. But again, with all this, there was like, oh, I don't know, at least a month wait. I had to wait to get IV iron, right? But eventually, like I did see too, like my surgeon in the midst of all this too. It was actually, I think, the day I passed out that I saw my surgeon, and she's like, yeah, you need to have these tumors removed. They're bloody and they're causing problems, right? To stop the blood loss. And two, there was like a 2-month wait by the time she saw me to get in to schedule surgery. So there's just a lot of waiting, right? And sitting it out and hope my body adjusts and everything. But eventually I finally got at least a little bit of IV iron in me. And within like probably a week after that, it doesn't usually take effect immediately. It's not like you get that IV iron and you're feeling like great the next day. It's kind of like a long process to get it absorbed in your body and everything. So I felt probably a week after, I did feel stronger. And that was literally like a day or two before surgery that I felt like strong enough that I could go through with surgery. So it's like, kind of like angels, I feel like, and God played a hand in that as well, like just in time, right? Because I told you, like, before that, I was worried, like I barely strong enough to sit in bed and read. Like, how am I gonna get through surgery? Like, how am I gonna have the strength to do this? But thankfully, at least with a little bit of that IV iron, I felt strong enough for surgery. And then at that point too, it was probably like 6 weeks too after I fell and hit my head too. So if I did have a concussion, maybe like a lot of the worst symptoms were subsiding there too, thankfully. So yeah, I was like, okay, this is good. Everything's looking good. So then I had surgery at the end of March, and everything with surgery, the day of surgery was wonderful, right? I did great. I was like, oh yes, that's a relief, right? I was sent home the day of surgery, so it was outpatient. Like I was happy, no complications with surgery. Everything went great with surgery. So I was like thinking to myself, I'm like, yay, maybe the worst is over, right? I'm gonna be, healed really soon, right? And feel a lot better, but hold up, right? Because I did experience a crazy post-surgical complication, right? Or bad side effect, which I will get to in a minute. But let me back up a little bit. So like the day after surgery for me, like, you're on a lot of, probably still a lot of the pain meds they give you at the hospital the day of surgery. So like going home, I'm like walking around already and being like, okay, this isn't too bad. But for this surgery, the day after surgery for me was the most painful. Sometimes with other surgeries I've had, sometimes the worst pain is maybe like day, 3 or 4. But for this one, for me, it was the day after surgery. I was like, oh, I feel horrible, right? But that's, nothing unusual, nothing unexpected there, right? So, but the day, maybe second day after surgery, third day, right? I was feeling like a lot stronger, and I was like very optimistic, right? I'm like, oh, good, maybe the worst is over, right? But then like, and I'm doing this a lot from memory, right? The last few months have been a bit of a blur, right? I'm doing the best I can recalling this for you all, right? Because it's tough to think about, right? I just want to move past these 6 months and feel like they feel like they never happened, right? But of course, I tell these stories to hope my experiences help people, right? When they're experiencing these challenges, right? But anyway, so maybe the fourth day after surgery, I physically, like my insides like felt really strong, right? I'm walking around the house a bit, but I felt like really like my stomach felt, cause it was abdominal surgery I had. So my stomach felt like really itchy. And, at first I wasn't like too concerned about it, because it's like, well, sometimes you hear like itchiness could be a good sign, right? That means you're healing, right? Does everyone hear that? Am I just the only one that hears that? But sometimes I'm just like, oh, sometimes that could be a sign of itching, right? So maybe I shouldn't be too concerned about that. But I didn't remember for my last surgeries, being that itchy. It was, it was a few years, at least 3.5 years since my last surgery. So I'm like, well, maybe I just don't remember. Or maybe it's, every surgery is a little different. So I don't know. I'm not too concerned about it, but dang, I'm itchy. So my abdomen. So, and then maybe the day after too, I noticed like my skin around my abdomen was like super hypersensitive, which was like really weird too. It's like I could not even tolerate like having the clothes touching my abdomen. It just like felt like horribly like hypersensitive. And so I'm like, I don't remember that either, right? I maybe this is normal. I don't know, but this is really, I don't like this. And then maybe, a day after that, I did like notice like a rash like starting on my abdomen. And at that point I'm like, I don't think this is normal, right? I'm gonna talk to my doctor about this. And so I emailed my surgeon at that point, and she's like, oh, get some hydrocortisone cream over the counter, put that on it, and take a couple Benadryl. And I'm like, okay, I've heard good things about Benadryl and everything for stopping itching, but I don't ever remember taking Benadryl for me. But I tried it, and I'm like, I don't know, this isn't really helping. Maybe an hour it helped, but that was like, yeah, really bad itching, horrible hypersensitive, hence sensitivity to the point where I'm like, I could not even like have anything on my shirt that I'm like doing the I Dream of Jeannie look, like where I'm like folding my shirt up there where it's like nothing is going, like in the abdominal area there. I can't handle it. Um yeah, so and then eventually, right, it just keeps getting worse and worse. And let me back up too. The day of surgery, they did do something different to me, and so I'm checking out my incisions like on the day of surgery, and like I don't see any bandages like normal, like from all my previous surgeries. And this was done too at like a different hospital, my same surgeon I had previously, but a different hospital I had the surgery out of. And I'm like, I look at my incisions and I'm like, I don't see like a band-aid. I did see like something shiny over them. And she's like, oh, well, this time they sealed you up with surgical glue instead of band-aids. And she's like, oh, you don't have to change them. You don't have to do anything to them. And she's like, you're going to love them. And I'm like, I'm thinking, I'm like, that does sound really neat, right? Yeah, so it's really neat in theory, right? But it's not really neat if you find out that you are one of the people that's horribly allergic to this surgical glue, right? That's the best theory I have so far. I'm going to know for sure in a couple months. I'll get allergy tested for sure to know if I'm allergic to this. But fast forward, I'll go back to where I was, like when I messaged my surgeon. I'm like, nothing's getting better, right? I go to like early for a post-op visit. I'm like, at that point, like, it's really bad, and it's like horrible rashes like all over my abdomen. And the surgeon's office, I actually saw like the PA handles all the physician's assistant handles all the post-op things at my surgeon's appointment. And she's like, yeah, maybe, I don't remember what she did at that point, but whatever she did too was like, not strong enough, right? At first too, they thought it was, they didn't think they were skeptical it was the surgical glue. They thought it was maybe like something, like a surgical prep, like maybe something they cleaned me with. But it lasted so long, and eventually too, like I was giving them a chance to resolve it. And they even like gave me like a Medrol dose pack, which is kind of like, it's not like a super strong dose of steroids, but it is like some at least oral steroids which theoretically should like calm it down, right? But that even did not help, right? And so like it was, you see how fair skinned I am, but my abdomen was just like solid angry red right at this point. And I'm like, okay, I've given y'all my surgeon's office a chance to fix this, and I'm still like horribly itchy at nights. I can't get any sleep. This is like 2 weeks after surgery too, so I like gave him like 2 weeks. Nothing against them. I just don't think they're used to seeing, a rash or side effect this bad for it. Because I guess like surgical glue allergies are rare. But, I tried. I'm like, I think I need to go to the ER. And, I was, blistering a lot too. So like my incisions were just like totally blistering and like oozing. It wasn't pus, but it was, thankfully they did do a culture and it wasn't infected. So it wasn't, like pussy, but it looked like honey. It was kind of like a yellow, kind of like clearish liquid, but those are like, you don't like when a blister breaks, it's like all that. And it was like, my incisions were oozing. Oh my gosh. So, horrible rashes, like horrible welts, everything. It was crazy. And so eventually I went to the ER, and they're like, yeah, you're not on strong enough stuff at all. So they gave me like a really high dose of prednisone and knocked all that out in like 5 days. But this reaction was so bad. Oh, too. And one of the crazy things is, so and because it lasted so long, right, and maybe because what the surgeon's office was giving me didn't help me, that's why I'm thinking, it's probably the surgical glue. And the worst thing about it is when you have a surgical glue allergy, or when someone suspects they do, right, there's not really anything besides like treat it. They can't like take it off, which was the worst part, right? Because it's holding my incisions together. So it was 2 weeks before they could remove the surgical glue like from my incisions. That's when like my like I kind of healed up enough where they could take it off without like my insides spilling out and everything. So I was stuck with the surgical glue on me for 2 weeks, right? Which is probably one of the reason why, it just kept getting worse and like my skin's like really angry. So my experience with recovering from that surgery then was like, it was like I think it's called like allergic contact dermatitis then, which is the same thing as like a poison ivy reaction, right? So imagine then, for anyone that's ever had poison ivy, imagine going through surgery and then having poison ivy stuck to your incisions for 2 weeks. So that was the equivalent of what my surgical recovery was for this last surgery. So that has been my experience too. And the thing is too, even after they removed the surgical glue, just because this was such like a bad allergy, I had rashes like popping up in other areas in my body too. So it doesn't just like localize it, like it starts very localized to your stomach, but then like my whole skin was just like at that point very, very angry, right? So you get rashes popping up in like every other area of my body, right? Over the last couple months, I've had rashes like pop up everywhere. And too, like hives, this is my first experience getting hives too, which are like these raised like itchy welts that you'll get. So I was like breaking out in hives all over my body too. And what else? Oh, and the hypersensitivity too. That was just on my abdomen. Like if I would go off, like I tried going off the antihistamines because I'm like, oh, it's been a few weeks. Hopefully I should be able to go off them now, right? And it's like, nope. I need to be on those antihistamines I'm still on them, right? And it still might be maybe at least another few weeks, maybe another few months that I could go off them, because when I tried going off it, then it's like my whole body my whole skin, like on my whole body experiences that like really insane hypersensitivity that is like, so I've never experienced anything like it. Maybe if you've experienced a bad, skin reaction or allergic contact dermatitis, you know what I'm talking about, but it was like going in the shower, like in the water on you, it's like your skin felt like it's being attacked by aliens. It just like feels so creepy. And even like air, right? Like when it was at its worst, air touching my abdomen, like just walking, right? It's like, oh my gosh, air molecules stop touching my skin because it's so uncomfortable. It was really an experience, pretty insane. And it's definitely been an adventure for sure. And this is one adventure I hope not to repeat, right? I did see there's like a very specialized like dermatologist in my area that specializes basically exclusively in studying this like allergic contact dermatitis. And I have to wait a few months though before this, the skin reaction totally settles down and is completely gone before he does the testing. But they'll put like patches on me of like various like ingredients and the surgical glue, and they'll test me for that. Like my one appointment, they were thinking, that was their hypothesis too, that it was a surgical glue reaction. But I'm gonna go through all the testing, right, and make sure for sure, and see how that goes, right? But oh my gosh, that's been crazy. An adventure I do not want to relive, because wow, it's been wild, right? But yeah, never a boring, never a dull moment. But the important thing is I am feeling a million times better, right? I feel like, oh my gosh, sorry if I've rambled a lot in this video, but definitely wanted to let you know what's been up the last 6 months or so since I've been dealing with all this craziness, right? But yeah, I'm feeling a lot better, of course. I'm very optimistic, and of course, and yeah, I do at least too, like for those 6 months too, like exercising is my big stress reliever and everything too. But my surgeons, like with all this blood loss, like you can't exercise. Like I told you, I could barely read in bed, so it was like, it was like very stressful. time in my life, like physically and mentally, right? So, but I am back now to exercising and like jogging and like, going out and doing all the fun things I would enjoy before surgery too. And in the midst of all of this too, I continue teaching. Like I had a pretty rough semester. I changed my course and redesigned my course is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, so that was a really challenge because that added a lot of work for me. But I did that like before I got really sick. But I got sick I started to get really sick very early in the semester too. And I was thinking, I'm like, I talked to my dean. He's like, I'd understand if you want to drop out this semester and have someone else take your courses. But I hate to do that, right? I'm like, I'm not feeling well enough to exercise. I stopped gigging for a while, like live performances. Of course, I wasn't up for that, but I'm like, I just, if I stop teaching, then I'm just going to be sitting in bed all day, right? Probably feeling worse, because you're focusing on it more. So I did continue on teaching and like managed a pretty decently heavy semester in the midst of all this. And thankfully, my family's the greatest. I have two of the most wonderful parents ever. And I was so sick, I could not even like bring my school books like to class and everything. I couldn't carry them. I didn't have the strength. And so I'm like, Mom and Dad, you want to be my teaching assistants for this semester? So they are too. I'm blessed with such amazing parents, and they helped so much, right? Me get to campus and me do the things that I needed to do to continue to be a good professor, right? And I am thankfully my summer class got canceled for low enrollment, and disappointed a little because it's like, I love the students, and the money would have been nice, especially with a lot of medical bills, the last few months. But then I'm like, I love the break, right? So I needed the break, right? It's been a lot the last 6 months, so been enjoying my summer, taking some really cool videos of things I see for you. Had a nice trip to the zoo recently. Got some, I love animals, right? Great video footage for you, all that I look forward to sharing on my YouTube video soon. So yeah, this has been a long enough video already. So thank you so much if you've tuned in this long, and just wanted to tell you thanks for all of your love and support again. And it's been a long video, but I totally feel like I'm forgetting to tell you something too. But there are always future YouTube videos. But thank you so much always for tuning in and for your everlasting love and support. I love you all, and say hi in the comments and tell me if you've had any crazy post-surgery adventures or anything that you don't want to repeat, or any exposures to poison ivy or allergic contact dermatitis or anything like that, or other tumor stories, right? Other anemia stories, anything, concussion stories, right? Share it all so that we could learn from it, right? Definitely takeaways, right, from this video. Be proactive with your health, right? Take care of yourself. Good communication with your doctors, right? If you really feel something in your gut and your doctors aren't on board with it, right? Keep at it, right? Keep being proactive about it to take care of yourself and get the best care possible, right? And keep living a happy, healthy life as best you can, right? And keep staying strong and optimistic, and you can do it, right? There were days, like I said, I thought I couldn't, and I thought I wouldn't get through it, but with lots of love and support from the family, and lots of blessings from above, and thoughts and support and blessings from you, I was able to pull it off. So thank you, and you will too, of course, right? So thank you, and stay in touch, and I will see you soon and talk with you soon. Okay, thanks so much. Bye.